back into the Big Sioux River through the inlet outlet structure, or the inlet outlet channel.
Is a flow-through system in a lake system, would you consider that to be a better state for a lake system to exist in as opposed to a terminal lake system?
That is a normal lake system. Normally a watershed, in a normal watershed, and I said this is a unique watershed that we're dealing with here. This isn't your run-of-the-mill watershed. Typically in a normal watershed, what would happen is there would be sufficient water coming from precipitation and runoff. That's our primary sources. That water would simply flow through the lakes and then out to the river. Most watersheds that you will see have a natural stream flow going right out to the river, and the lakes in here would be maintained by the precipitation and the resulting runoff, or either directly on the lakes or the resulting runoff. But we'd have natural flow-through systems.
Did that flow-through system exist at the time that the FC5 gated structures were installed in 1991?
No. But we need to go back to looking at maybe what was going on with that proposal. And when we look at that proposal, there was a lot of studies done, and it was, I think it was Mr. Winterton in his report from DENR, when he did the DENR's evaluation of the request for FC5. There's a statement in his report stating that water from the Big Sioux River can be used to maintain the water level in Lake Ponce. That is in the DENR report. So they understood, at least it's my understanding, that DENR recognized when this permit, the original permit, was requested or was submitted, that there was insufficient water in this system to maintain the lake level in Lake Ponce. So there's a specific statement in there stating that water could be or can be diverted from the Big Sioux River through the Boswell structure to maintain a stable lake level.
So at the time that the gates were installed and began their operation, there was a system in place for Lake Ponce to receive water to help maintain its water levels, correct?
Yes, there was.
Is that system still available to Lake Ponce for lake level stabilization or any sort of input?
No, it is not. Game Fish and Parks had the Boswell Dam removed. That structure is gone. They have rendered the Boswell gates inoperative. They've disconnected the power, and they may have removed the electric motors, I'm not sure. But this structure right now, as it sits, is incapable of allowing water to flow into Lake Ponce to replenish the water levels as it was understood under the original request for FC5.
Well, that seems like a lot of information to me, so I'm clear. The system that was in place to allow water to get into Lake Ponce, to fill it, through the Boswell system that was in place at the time the gates were put in, no longer exists.
That is correct.
And did you say that through one of your reports that without that water source, that extra 1 foot per year, that the lake would continue to decline?
Objection, Anthony.
What's wrong? Is there any current mechanism other than natural rainfall directly on the lake in which Ponce can receive an input of water?
Yes, unfortunately there is, and let me put my my graph back up here. Here we go. Yeah, here we go.
Is that exhibit number 4?
This will be exhibit number 4. It's interesting when we start to analyze what's going on with this system. I said it's a very unique, it's a very complex system. If we just look at precipitation, there's not a whole lot. In fact, let's take a look at 2007. It's an interesting year because 2007 was down here, and we got significantly more water. Average is about 24. We're up in about 33, 34 inches of precipitation. So we've got a really wet year. But if we look at the water levels in Lake Poncet, there is essentially no response, other than maybe we get a little bit from back to that budget, where we get a little extra water on that plus side, but it really had little to no effect on the lake levels. Where we're actually seeing events that actually cause the lake to rise are uncontrolled events. Uncontrolled events. And what you have to do now is I want to focus you on the Big Sioux River near Castlewood. This is a hydrograph of the flows on the Big Sioux. And you will notice that when you get extreme flows on the Big Sioux River, you will get flows moving in, uncontrolled, into Lake Poncet. So when we see these high ones here, we come back to 97 and we see we've got a big spike here in the flow in the Big Sioux, and that corresponds to a large spike in the water level of Lake Poncet. So where we're seeing recharge is an uncontrolled situation. They occur, and I just did a little playing around with the distances or the timeline in here. Between these two right here, about 9 years. About 9 years. So we're going to have essentially a 9-foot decline in water level before this uncontrolled event from the Big Sioux brings the water level back up. We come back in here. We have a year back in here. We have 13 years where the water levels were, if the gated structure had been in place. Keep in mind that a year is roughly a foot of water level decline.
So if the system is declining at 1 foot a year, and there are no other water sources that can come into Lake Poncet to help recharge it, does the lake have to expect or rely on these unnatural occurrences of high water events to find itself refilled?
The only way that I can see that this water level will come back is these flood type events that occur on the Big Sioux. So in the meantime, everyone on the lake is basically stuck with lake levels that are 4, 5, 6 feet below where they would be for the outlet, below the outlet. And there's really nothing right now, the way we're set up, that we can do anything about that.
How does the applications that we have put before this board hope to address those issues?
Okay, let me put up this point. Let me put up here just simply what we're asking for here. Very simple. Very simple. Let me just hold. And this is which.
That is not actually a marked exhibit as of yet. That is simply the application.
Okay, it's a blow-up of the application that's contained within our investigative report. And it says the amendment to qualifications 1 and 2 of the flood control permit FC5. This permit was approved in March 4th of 1987.